Our story starts with 4 legs. A bond that is stronger than most human relationships. We are on track. And now, our story starts with you.
I'm JC Elliott here with Ontrack Canine Deer Recovery, and this is Lance Brantley, the owner.
Here on Ontrack, it is a business. To us, it's a lot more. I mean, to us and the hunter, obviously. It's trying to put the deer in the truck and create memories of a lifetime.
Y'all can check us out at Ontrack Canine Deer Recovery on Facebook and Instagram, and our YouTube is Ontrack Outdoor Adventures.
You call Ontrack, we'll track any deer that anybody wants us to track. We won't turn anything away unless we're super busy. That's the only time we would turn any track down. Now, we will gather all the info we can, the shot placement, direction of the deer, pictures of blood or arrow if we have it. And if we can use that evidence to tell you if that success rate is low or high of a recovery, we don't want to go there and just take your money. So that is something we do. Obviously, any deer that's shot is worth an effort to go after. But since we do charge, we try to screen that call enough to let you know the success rate. You know, if it's a low penetration shoulder wound, you may not want to hire us because the success rate is so low of recovery, and the deer usually ends up fine within a few weeks. But that's kind of the questions we ask when we're called. The main thing is, you know, before we get there, we ask to call the landowners around, get permission, who we can and not go on. If there is a crowd of people, we ask to let us work, give the dog and us 50 yards of room to work the track. Depending on how old the track is, sometimes we have to work it back and forth. The dog is, sometimes there's a straight line of scent and he can travel pretty fast. Sometimes there's more like connecting dots where there's scent here and it may be 20 yards before he hits his next dot of scent. So he may venture out and not hit it. He's got to go back to his last scent to reset. So sometimes that going back and forth is part of tracking. And we got a crowd of people and they step across that last scent and they bring scent everywhere and contaminate the track. It really slows the process down.
A deer like this being out in daylight hours every day in this area, it's heaven sent. It's heaven sent deer. I promise you, he's a good present, buddy.
On this track here, I got the call from Crofton, Kentucky area. A gentleman named Cory Anderson. He had shot this deer previous that day. I'd say somewhere, it was 12 hours earlier, if I'm not mistaken. He had shot the deer hard, quarter in two. It went in behind the shoulder and ended up exiting in front of the back hip. The deer traveled after the shot somewhere around, it was 500 to 600 yards or so. He went through some pretty heavy, thick terrain. It wasn't the easiest track, it wasn't the hardest, but it was definitely worth the track. This deer here, and this kind of shows you throughout the season, you guys are going to see a lot of different emotions while we're tracking it. And that's one thing that is addicting to us, because we never know everything. You know, every track is so different. The reaction of these hunters. Some of them are a little disappointed from ground shrinkage, and some of them are literally in tears with joy. And that's one thing with tracking that keeps us so addicted. But you're going to see in this episode here, this has been our first episode, and it's a pretty special one. So you guys can check this out.
I come up and put a camera out, and the evening I put that camera out, this can come up there in daylight. And I know beyond, with everything in my being, it was my brother who was holding him for me. He went and wrestled him down, he tied him up, he drug him in here. And this is Ray Ray's. This is whose it is. This is Ray Ray.
Guys, this right here is what we do, and it ain't always the inches of deer that make us want to push so hard to recover them. It's what it means to the person that shot it. And this one here there's a lot of meaning in this deer, isn't there?
Yes, sir, there is. We've hunted this land for the last 5 years, me, my dad, and my brother. Every time we come up here, it'd be all of us. And I've spent every day of my life for the last probably 10 years working with my brother. I haven't been on vacation by myself in the last 10 years. We always went together. We worked together, we cooked together, and we hunted together. Well, we laid him to rest about 3 weeks ago, and my first thought was to I couldn't, because every time I see something hunting, I think of him. I didn't ever want to hunt again. I didn't want to do nothing, but thankfully my wife, she told me that's not what he'd want, so I come up and put a camera out, and the evening I put that camera out, this one come up there in daylight. I mean, if that ain't, and he come out every day for a week straight, and I know with everything in my being, it was my brother who was holding it for me. He went and wrestled him down, he tied him up, he drug him in here, and this is Ray Ray's. This is whose it is. This is Ray Ray.
I'm gonna tell you, a deer like this being out in daylight hours every day in this area,
it's heaven sent.
It's heaven sent deer. I promise you, he's a good president, buddy.
He knew what I needed. He knew I needed a spark. You know, I was fortunate enough to take it with his crossbow. And I got this bracelet that was made that says, "I'll walk with you every day."